Okay, we're going to go through a script called Sectoral Growth Africa Groningen, which is going to reproduce one of the charts from the reading that we had for Thursday. So this will be an interesting script because it will create a bar chart, an ordered bar chart. You'll see whether you're interested in it once we get it. It's something that people do all the time. So it's useful to keep this script. Let's see, we're going to start by clearing the working space. Then we're going to load a bunch of packages that you should have installed. And if you don't have them installed, you'll need to install each one of those packages. We are going to also load this magritter, which is going to use a function called extract2. We'll see what that does. I'm going to turn off the scientific notation. And then we create an object, Gron URL. It's just the website for this data set that we can go to the website and look for it. And then we download the file, and it's an Excel file, so it'll download to whatever our working directory is. And then we can read the Excel file with the read.excel function. There's many functions in R, many commands to read Excel files. So this is just the one that I'm happening to use here. And so we get the Gron data set, 7,556 observations for many countries in the world from 1960 to, I think it goes up to 2011. And the data set tells us what for three variables, value added in constant $2005, and employment. For those three variables, it tells us what the value was for each sector of the economy: agriculture, mining, manufacturing, utilities, construction, finance, insurance, real estate, government services. You see some of the variable names here are very long, and we'll want to shorten them, of course. So that's the data set. You should take a look at it once you've downloaded it and read it into R. We're going to do some things that I won't ever quiz you on. So we're going to create a little function that will turn numeric variables into numeric variables if they're all numbers, if they're currently character variables. And so then we'll run this. And then we're going to mutate some of the variables, changing the names, replacing the missing values with zeros. And that's now we have our Gron data set with we've aggregated, also added up things that made sense to add up to get the share of agriculture in the economy, the share of industry in the economy, and the share of services in the economy. So for every country, we have the year, we have the value added, we have the share of agriculture in value added, the share of agriculture in value added in constant $2005, and the share of employment in agriculture. And we're just going to pick the African countries. So we can also run a table here where we see we have 533 observations. So there's 40 African countries that we're observing for 40 years, but many are going to be missing. Actually, in this data set, I think there's just 13 African countries that we're observing for about 40 years. So that's about the 533 observations. So 533 for employment, 533 for value added, and 533 for value added in constant 2005 prices. Now, what we're going to do here is take the African countries. We're just going to keep the employment variables. And what we're going to do is just pick year 2010. So now we'll see what we have here. So we call that XX. So if we look at XX, we have the 13 countries. Just for 2010, we have the share of employment. Remember, we just selected the employment, not the value added in GDP in the economy, just the employment shares. So if we have the share in agriculture, which ranges from 0.38 to 0.7 is the high, the 0.75 here in Ethiopia, the share of industry, where we have the highest, looks like it's about Kenya, I think is Mauritius, maybe, with 0.30, and share of services, Mauritius high of 0.62, Zimbabwe high of South Africa, ZAF is South Africa, high of 0.63. So we're going to take this XX though, and what we're going to do is turn it from a wide data set to a long data set. And we're going to use this gather function that's in Dipler. So notice that I went to 39 observations. So now it's a long data set. And basically what I did was I restacked it so that I had every country 3 times. Botswana, its ag share, Botswana, its industry share, and Botswana, its service share. I do that because that's the usual shape that ggplot needs things in. They need things in, ggplot needs things in the long form, not in the wide form. So I turned it, I pivoted the data set. Now I'm going to, as the hashtag says, I'm going to get a vector of countries in order of ag share. So I'm going to create something called OO that's just going to be the countries. So we see here we have OO, and the country names are ordered from high to low in their share of agriculture. And we'll see why I'm doing that in a second. So Ethiopia, we saw, had the highest share of the population in agriculture. Now I'm going to create a bar chart. I'm going to take country and create a factor variable for country using the levels of OO, so putting them in the order of OO, so that the levels are in this order, so that Ethiopia is going to be first. And then I'm going to plot this with geom_bar, and I'm just going to plot the number. So we have stat equals identity, meaning just the number that I have there. So when I run this, it's become clearer when I run it. So I run it, I call it P, and now I'm going to display P, and there I go. I have my bar chart, bar graph that I wanted, which was a stacked bar graph. So Ethiopia, the share in agriculture is almost 75%. This is the share in industry, and the red is the share in services. Now, this graph can be improved, right? I know these are all countries here, so I don't need country label. And this is obviously the share, so maybe I don't need the share. And this legend is taking up a lot of space, so wouldn't it be nice to move it inside here? And then it has some weird title here. Wouldn't it be nice to have a title for the legend? So these next elements are doing just that. So you can see what they mean. They're fairly obvious. And we got a much nicer looking bar graph with the legend inside and labeled as the sector, service, industry, and agriculture. And there we have our bar chart in order.